10 ways to win enemies without arguments. Imagine this, you walk into a room and someone already dislikes you. You didn't fight, you didn't argue, but still they see you as a threat. Why? Because sometimes you don't create enemies by fighting, you create them by growing. Let me tell you 10 silent ways you can win enemies without a single argument. 1. Stay calm when others expect you to react. There is a moment, a very small moment, that decides whether you create peace or silently create an enemy. That moment is your reaction. Imagine this, you are standing in a group, someone says something about you, not directly but loud enough for you to hear. A small comment, a hidden insult. Everyone looks at you waiting for your reaction because they expect something anger, defensiveness, an argument. But instead, you stay calm. At first, it feels powerful, but to the other person, it feels uncomfortable because they were ready for a fight, but you didn't show up. You see, most people are not prepared for silence, they are trained for reactions. When you react, they feel in control. When you stay calm, they feel lost. And that loss of control creates irritation. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy in a classroom. He was often mocked by a few classmates. One day, someone made fun of him again. The whole class laughed. But this time he didn't react. He just looked at them, smiled slightly, and went back to his work. No anger, no explanation, no argument. That day something changed. The laughter slowly faded because when there is no reaction, the joke dies on its own. But something else was born, ego discomfort. The ones who mocked him felt ignored, and being ignored hurts more than being argued with. This is the truth. When you stay calm, you don't feed negativity, but at the same time, you don't satisfy the ego of others. And an unsatisfied ego often turns into silent dislike. Now, think about your own life. How many times have you reacted instantly to prove your point, to defend yourself, to win an argument? And what did it give you? Temporary satisfaction but long term exhaustion. Because every reaction invites more reactions, it becomes a cycle. But calmness breaks that cycle. However, let's be honest, staying calm is not easy. It feels like losing. It feels like staying silent means weakness, but in reality, it is the highest level of control because anyone can shout, anyone can argue, but very few people can control their emotions when they are tested. And here is the twist, when you master calmness, two things happen. You gain inner strength, you lose unnecessary approval. And that's where enemies are born. Not from your anger, but from your control. Some people will think, why is this person not reacting? Do they think they are better? Why can't I affect them? And slowly, without any argument, without any fight, they become someone they cannot control. And people don't like what they can't control, but here is what you must understand. Not every enemy is a bad thing. Some enemies are just a sign that you are growing, that you are changing, that you are no longer easy to manipulate. So, the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, take a breath, and choose silence over reaction. Not because you are weak, but because you are in control. Because Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. 2. Improve yourself quietly. There is a kind of growth that makes no noise, no announcements, no validation, no applause, just silent progress. In today's world, people don't just grow, they show their growth. Every small win becomes a post, every step becomes a story, every improvement becomes an announcement. And slowly, growth turns into performance. But real growth, real transformation happens in silence. Imagine this, a seed planted deep in the soil. Does it make noise while growing? Does it tell the world I am becoming a tree? No. It grows quietly in darkness, and one day, without warning, it breaks through the surface. That is how true improvement works. Invisible at first, unnoticed for a long time, and then suddenly unavoidable. But here is the truth most people don't talk about. When you improve quietly, you don't just surprise people, you also disturb them. Because your silence removes comparison at first, but your results bring it back stronger. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy, not the smartest in class, not the most talented, not the most confident. He was average. And because he was average, no one paid attention to him. But one day he made a decision not to prove others wrong but to change himself. He stopped talking about his plans, stopped telling people what he wanted to do. Instead, he started working quietly. While others were scrolling, he was learning. While others were complaining, he was improving. While others were seeking attention, he was building discipline. Days passed, weeks passed, months passed, and nothing seemed different, at least on the outside. But inside, everything was changing. His mindset, his habits, his focus. He was becoming someone new. And then, one day, the results appeared. His marks improved, his confidence changed, his presence became stronger. And suddenly, people noticed. But here is where it gets interesting. They didn't just notice his success, they questioned it. How did he do this? When did he change? Why didn't we see it coming? Because people are comfortable with your old version. When you stay the same, they are predictable, and predictability feels safe. But when you improve silently, they become unpredictable, and unpredictability makes people uncomfortable. Some will admire you, but others will feel something they don't understand. Not anger, not hate, but a quiet discomfort because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. And this is where silent enemies are born. Not because you hurt them, not because you argued, but because your progress spoke louder than their excuses. Now think about this. If that boy had announced everything, I am going to change, I am going to become better, I am going to prove everyone wrong, what would have happened? People would have watched him, judged him, doubted him, maybe even discouraged him. Because when you speak too soon, you invite opinions too early. And opinions can weaken determination, but silence protects your energy. When no one knows your plan, no one can interrupt it. When no one expects anything from you, you are free to build without pressure. And when results come without warning, they hit harder. This is the power of quiet improvement. But let's go deeper. Why does silent growth affect people so much? Because it removes one thing they depend on: comparison comfort. People feel comfortable when they know I am ahead of this person. I am better than them. I am doing okay compared to them. But when you improve quietly, you change the equation without informing them. And one day they realize you are no longer the same person. And that realization is uncomfortable. But here is something important you must understand. You are not responsible for their discomfort. Your growth is not an attack. Your progress is not an insult. Your success is not a crime. You are simply evolving, and evolution always creates distance. Distance from old habits, distance from old thinking, distance from old people. Not because you hate them, but because you no longer match them. And that mismatch can feel like rejection to them. But it is not rejection, it is transformation. So don't feel guilty for growing quietly. Don't feel the need to explain why you are changing. Don't feel pressure to slow down just to make others comfortable. Because the truth is, those who truly support you will respect your growth, and those who don't were never aligned with your journey. So build yourself in silence. Let your habits speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your results speak. Because when success makes noise, it is louder than any announcement. And as along the way, you may gain silent enemies, but you will also gain something far more valuable: self respect. And in the end, that is what truly matters. 3. Say no without guilt. There is a small word, just two letters, simple to say, but extremely difficult to live by. That word is no. For many people, no is not just a word, it is fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being rejected. So instead, they say yes. Even when they are tired, even when they are uncomfortable, even when they don't want to. They say yes. And slowly, that yes becomes a habit of sacrificing yourself to maintain approval. Imagine this: you have had a long day, you are mentally exhausted, all you want is rest. But then someone asks you for a favor. In that moment, you have two choices: say no and protect your energy, and say yes and protect their opinion of you. And most people choose the second because somewhere deep inside they have been taught that saying no is rude, selfish, disrespectful. But no one teaches them that always saying yes is self neglect. Let me tell you a story. There was a girl, kind, helpful, always available. If someone needed help, she was there. If someone asked for time, she gave it. If someone needed support, she sacrificed her own needs. Everyone liked her, everyone appreciated her, everyone depended on her. But slowly, something started changing. She began to feel tired, not physically, but emotionally. Because the more she gave, the less she had for herself. And one day, she realized something painful. People didn't respect her, they expected her. Her kindness had become a responsibility in others' eyes. That day, she made a decision, a small one but powerful. The next time someone asked for something, she paused, took a breath, and said no. Not aggressively, not rudely, just calmly. And in that moment, everything changed. The person was surprised, confused, even a little upset because they were not used to it. You see, when you always say yes, people build an image of you. They see you as available, dependable, always ready. But the moment you say no, that image cracks. And people don't like when their expectations are broken. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped fitting into their comfort. And this is where silent resistance begins. Some may question you. Why are you saying no? You have changed. You used to be different. But the truth is, you didn't change. You just stopped ignoring yourself. Let's go deeper. Why is saying no so hard? Because we are trained to seek approval. From childhood, we are praised for being obedient, rewarded for saying yes, accepted for being agreeable. And slowly, we connect approval with compliance. So, when we say no, it feels like we are risking connection. But here is the truth: real respect does not come from always agreeing, it comes from having boundaries. Because boundaries show self awareness, self respect, self control. And not everyone is comfortable with that. Some people prefer the version of you that was easier to control. So, when you start saying no, they feel the difference, and sometimes that difference creates distance. But understand this: every no you say to others is a yes to say to yourself. Yes to your peace, yes to your time, yes to your priorities. And that matters because your time is your life. Every moment you give away unnecessarily is a moment you cannot get back. So, why give it away? Just to avoid discomfort. Discomfort is temporary, but self neglect becomes a habit. Now imagine a different version of you, someone who chooses carefully, who listens to their own needs, who is kind, but not at the cost of their own well being. That person still helps others, still supports others, still cares, but not blindly, not endlessly, not at the cost of themselves. And as some people may not like this version of you because you are no longer as available, no longer as easy, no longer as predictable. But you are strong, clearer, more in control. And that is the goal. Because life is not about being liked by everyone, it is about living in alignment with yourself. So, the next time you feel the pressure to say yes, pause. Ask yourself, do I really want to do this? And if the answer is no, say it calmly, respectfully, without guilt. Because no is not rejection, it is direction. It tells people where you stand, what you value, who you are. And those who truly respect you will understand. So don't be afraid to choose yourself because in a world where everyone is trying to please others, the strongest person is the one who knows when to say no. 4. Don't explain yourself to everyone. There is a quiet habit that many people carry without even realizing it: the habit of explaining themselves, explaining their choices, explaining their decisions, explaining their life to everyone. Why? Because deep inside there is a need to be understood, a need to feel accepted, a need to feel validated, a need to avoid judgment. So, whenever someone questions them, they respond with explanation: long ones, detailed ones, endless ones, hoping that if they explain enough, people will finally understand. But here is the truth: not everyone is listening to understand you. Some are listening to judge you, some are listening to doubt you, some are listening just to reply. And no amount of explanation can change that. Imagine this: you make a decision, a personal one, something that feels right to you. But someone asks, why did you do that? And suddenly you feel the need to justify yourself. You start explaining your reasons, your thoughts, your intentions. But the more you explain, the more questions come. Because when you open the door to explanation, you invite opinions, and opinions never end. Let me tell you a story. There was a young man who decided to take a different path in life while others followed a traditional route. He chose something uncertain, something risky, something different. And naturally, people started asking questions. Why are you doing this? Is this really a good idea? What will others think? What if you fail? At first, he explained everything, his vision, his plans, his reasons. He tried to make them understand, but no longer how much he explained, something didn't change their doubts because their questions were not coming from curiosity, they were coming from their own fears. And you cannot remove someone's fear with your explanation. That day he realized something powerful. Understanding cannot be forced, and from that moment he changed his approach. The next time someone questioned him, he simply smiled and said, "This is what I have chosen." No long explanation, no justification, no defense, just clarity. And something interesting happened. Some people respected him more because confidence doesn't need explanation, but others felt uncomfortable because they were used to having access to his decisions. They were used to analyzing him, questioning him, influencing him, and now that access was gone. And when people lose access, they sometimes create distance, not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped giving them control. Let's go deeper. Why do we feel the need to explain ourselves? Because we fear misunderstanding. We think if I explain clearly, they will get me. If they understand me, they will accept me. If they accept me, I will feel safe. But here is the truth, you can explain yourself perfectly and still be misunderstood because people don't just hear your words, they filter them through their own beliefs, their experiences, their insecurities, their mindset. So, even if your intention is pure, their interpretation may not be. And that's not something you can control. So, why exhaust yourself trying to control something that was never in your hands? Not every question deserves an answer, not every opinion deserves a response, not every person deserves access to your inner world. Because your life is not a public debate, it is a personal journey. And personal journeys do not require constant explanation. Now imagine this version of you, someone who is clear in their decisions, who knows their direction, who trusts their choices, someone who listens but does not feel pressured to justify, someone who respects others but also respects themselves enough to stay silent when needed. That silence is not weakness, it is strength. Because it takes strength to stand by your choices without needing approval. And yes, when you stop explaining yourself, some people will misunderstand you. Some may assume things about you. Some may judge you. Some may even distance themselves. But understand this, if someone needs constant explanations to respect you, they were never truly respecting you. They were just evaluating you, and you are not here to be evaluated by everyone. You are here to live your life, so choose your silence wisely. Speak when it adds value. Explain when it is necessary, and don't feel obligated to justify your existence because the more you explain yourself to everyone, the more you lose yourself. And the more you protect your energy, the more you become yourself. So, the next time someone questions your choices, pause, smile, and remember you don't owe everyone an explanation. 5. Be consistent. There is something that looks simple from the outside but feels incredibly difficult when you try to live it. That thing is consistency. Not talent, not luck, not intelligence, but the ability to show up again and again, even when you don't feel like it. Most people don't fail because they are incapable, they fail because they are inconsistent. They start strong, full of energy, full of motivation, but slowly that energy fades. Excuses enter, distractions grow, focus disappears, and what once felt exciting becomes optional. Imagine this: two people start the same journey, same goal, same opportunity, same starting point. The first person works hard for a few days, then stops, then starts again, then stops again. The second person does something small every single day, not perfect, not extraordinary, just consistent. Now, fast forward. Weeks later, months later, who do you think moves forward? The one who worked hard occasionally or the one who showed up daily? Consistency always wins. But here is something deeper. Consistency is not just about progress, it is about identity. Every time you show up, you send a message to yourself: I am someone who does what I say. And every time you break that promise, you send another message: my words don't matter. Slowly, without realizing, you build an image of yourself, either someone reliable or someone inconsistent, and that image controls your future actions. Let me tell you a story. There was a boy who wanted to improve his life. He made big plans, big goals, big promises to himself. I will wake up early, I will study every day, I will change my life. And for a few days he did. He woke up early, he worked hard, he felt proud. But then one day he didn't feel like it. So he skipped. It's okay, he told himself, just one day. But one day became two, two became a week, and slowly he returned to where he started. Not because he couldn't do it, but because he couldn't continue it. That is the hidden challenge. Starting is exciting, consistency is lonely. Because in the beginning, people support you, encourage you, notice you. But after some time, that attention disappears. No one is watching, no one is clapping, no one is checking. It's just you and your discipline. And that's where most people stop because they depend on motivation instead of building habit. But here is the truth: motivation is temporary, consistency is a choice. You won't always feel like doing the work, you won't always feel inspired, you won't always feel ready. But consistency does not ask for feelings, it asks for action. Even on bad day, show up. Even when it's boring, show up. Even when no one notices, show up. Because every small action is building something bigger. Now, here is where it connects to your topic. When you become consistent, you don't just improve your life, you also create discomfort in others. Why? Because consistency is rare. Most people start things, very few people finish them. So, when you keep going without stopping, you become a reminder of what others are not doing. And reminders can be uncomfortable. Some people will admire you, but others will feel irritated. Not because you hurt them, but because your discipline highlights their excuses. They may think, why is this person so serious? Why can't they relax? Why are they doing so much? But what they are really feeling is pressure. Because your consistency raises the standard, not everyone wants to raise this. So instead, they try to lower yours through comments, through jokes, through discouragement. But understand this, their reaction is not about you, it's about their own struggle. So don't stop, not for approval, not for comfort, not for others. Keep going because consistency compounds. What you do today adds to tomorrow. What you repeat daily shapes your future. And one day, without warning, everything changes. Results appear, confidence grows, identity shifts. And suddenly people say you are lucky, you are talented, you have something special. But they didn't see the quiet days, the boring days, the difficult days when you showed up anyway. That is the power of consistency. So become someone who shows up, not sometimes, not when it's easy, not when it's exciting, but every single day. Because in a world full of people who start, the one who continues becomes unstoppable.